What's going on, Dodgers Nation? Doug McCain here. You can follow me at DMAC_LA. Be sure to subscribe to the Dodgers Nation YouTube channel. For all the latest Dodgers news and rumors, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and I want all your takes down below in the comments section. I want all your takes on today's topic right down below in the comments section. And for all the latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com. Today we're going to be talking about Corey Seager. Should the Dodgers look to extend Corey Seager before the start of the 2021 season? Will Corey Seager consider signing a contract? We're going to break it all down. But Corey Seager, he had an outstanding year this year. It was a Corey book season where he was phenomenal in the regular season, won the NLCS MVP, and won the World Series MVP. Now, the three big takeaways from Corey Seager's 2020 season for me are: one, when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. When his season isn't being derailed by injuries, by surgeries, he's one of the very best players in the sport. And this year, Seager was Corey Lee. He was fantastic from start to finish. In the regular season, he slashed .307, .358, .585, had a .943 OPS, 15 bombs, 41 ribbies, and a 152 OPS plus. Which brings me to my second takeaway from Corey Seager's 2020 season, and that was the power. He was slugging all season long. It was Corey Slugger out there on the diamond. This year, 15 home runs for Corey Seager. In a regular 162-game season, that projects out to a 40-plus home run season. We're looking at 46 home runs if he had kept up that pace for an entire 162-game season. And then the third takeaway was how clutch he was in the postseason. In the postseason, he slashed .328, .425, .746, and then if you go round by round, yes, in the first wild card series, he hit .143, but he did hit a home run, and then he turned it up after that. In the NLDS, he hit .364, had 1,012 OPS. NLCS, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, an OPS of 1230, and then in the Fall Classic, he was on his game as well. He slashed .400, .556, .700, had a 1256 OPS with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. Corey Seager, in the 2017 run, he hit .237 and slugged .395. In the postseason, he hit .328 and slugged .746. You also look at those strikeouts to walks. Last year, in the Dodgers' first-round NLDS loss to the Washington Nationals, 6 strikeouts, no walks. The entire postseason this year, he had 12 punch-outs and drew 11 walks. So Corey Seager, he was outstanding in the 2020 postseason. He went to God mode. Here's Corey Seager in the 2020 postseason.
Corey Seager with another 2-out RBI as he circles the bases with his 8th home run of this postseason.
So Corey Seager was on fire this season, and he had no mercy against heaters. Corey Seager slugged .800 against fastballs this year, and previously, the most home runs that Corey Seager had hit in a season was 26. Back in 2016, really his most elite complete season before last year. If you consider the small sample size, Corey Seager was on pace to hit over 40 home runs this year, and to me, that's the big question mark, because if he can play like this for an entire 162-game season, and he can stay healthy, and he can slug like that and give you over 35 to 40 home runs a season, he's a different player, and his value would skyrocket as a result. Now, the question is, if you're the Dodgers and Andrew Friedman, do you try to get a deal done before his impending free agency, or do you let him go into free agency, test the waters, and try to have him test that market, see what the market is for Corey Seager? Now, there's a couple ways you can look at a possible Corey Seager extension, and the first is from Corey Seager's viewpoint. If you're Corey Seager, you're represented by Scott Boras. Scott Boras is the Thanos of sports super agents, right? He likes to urge his clients to enter free agency and see how big of a bag they can secure. But if you're Corey Seager, you can go to Scott Boras and say, hey, you signed extensions for Strasburg, for Altuve, for Bogarts, and I like it in Los Angeles. I just won a World Series here. I won the World Series MVP. They drafted me with the number 18 pick in the 2012 draft. I want to be locked up in Los Angeles for the majority of my career. Get me a deal, because we don't know what the market's going to look like after the CBA expires after next season, and will baseball have recovered financially after the losses of the 2020 season? How will the 2021 season go? Will we get fans in the stands? Will we start to get that revenue back up where it was pre-COVID? That remains to be seen. And for me, if you had to pick between Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor, Trevor Story, Carlos Correa, or Javi Baez, I'm going Corey Seager all day, because one, you can move him to third base, and two, he can be a DH when the National League eventually moves to a permanent DH. I think that is inevitable at this point, and Corey Seager's offense to me makes him such an attractive long-term signing because baseball is becoming more of an offensive game. You want those sluggers, and what Corey Seager showed me this year with the bat, to me, he can be one of the best hitters at that position in all of Major League Baseball. He certainly was last year, and if you're Corey Seager, the caliber of shortstops available, he's not afraid of any competition, but it could potentially water down that market, and I'm not so sure that there's going to be a lot of teams lined up to sign shortstops to 9-figure deals in the 2020 free agency class. Now, it's possible, yes, there's teams out there like the Yankees, like the Cubs, like the Giants, like the Angels potentially that could use a shortstop at that price, but if you're Corey Seager, depending on how motivated you are to spend the prime years of your career with the Dodgers, you could probably try to get a deal done, at least send the feelers out there to see if the Dodgers are interested in engaging in contract extension talks before the season starts. Look, he doesn't turn 27 until April 27th next year, so there's so much prime left in his career, and if you're the Dodgers in this situation, you have to consider maybe you can get some value out of this contract, because let's say the next season plays out and they go the full 162 and Corey Seager hits 46 bombs, wins the MVP, looks like the elite player that he was this year, then he's saying, hey, I could definitely get $300 million or more in this offseason. So I just don't want the Dodgers to pull an Adrian Beltre and let him get away. You can't have that happen this time around with Corey Seager, and if you're not going to sign Corey Seager, you're going to let him go into free agency, then you have to consider maybe do we even trade Corey Seager and try to get something in return. Now, I don't even want to think about that. I want to think about a contract extension before the season starts, and if you're the Dodgers, Joe Kelly's going to be off the books. Kenley Jansen's going to be off the books. Clayton Kershaw's salary is going to be reduced from $31 million to $25 million. There's going to be some savings there, and you're not committed to anyone past the 2022 season, of course, other than Mookie Betts. So the financial flexibility is there to sign Corey Seager, and you know how this organization likes to operate. Andrew Freeman, he likes to keep as much flexibility as he can, but the question I have is, you're really interested in trading for Nolan Arenado when he's older than Corey Seager by 4 years, and he's not the player offensively that Corey Seager is. So to me, it's a no-brainer. You sign Corey Seager, you don't even think about an Arenado trade, and then, hey, if Cody Bellinger walks, Cody Bellinger walks. I have this feeling that Cody Bellinger doesn't end his career with the Dodgers. I think that he's going to test that free agency market. I can see him join the New York Yankees. For some reason, I can see Cody Bellinger join the Yankees. Of course, his dad won a World Series there in 1998. But let's get back to Thanos Scott Boras, because Scott Boras is going to look to his client and say, hey, Corey, you play out this season, you bet on yourself, you have another great year, and there's gonna be suitors. You show all these teams around the league that in a full season you can be elite and you can stay healthy, that there are no more health concerns with Corey Seager, and then you could be looking at a bigger contract. But to me, Corey Seager doesn't seem like the type that seems like he's the most money-motivated athlete. I just think that the way he plays the game, he loves the game of baseball, and he loves to win. So I don't see him taking a big contract with a team if it doesn't mean they're going to be contending for World Series titles. All Corey Seager knows is success on the diamond when it comes to team success. So I think Corey Seager is a guy that understands the value of winning. And another question I have is, what's Corey Seager's relationship like with this Dodgers organization? I'm assuming it's a strong one, but it didn't help to hear his name mentioned in all those Lindor trade rumors throughout the years. And yes, of course, the Dodgers, they didn't come out publicly and say, hey, we're interested in trading for Frankie Lindor. Of course, that'd be tampering, but you know those rumors were real in the last few seasons. And I think that Corey Seager, did that wear on him? Did that impact him in any way? Here's him talking about that during last year's Fan Fest.
Not bother. You know, it maybe surprise is a better word, but you know, you try and not look into it as much as possible. You try and just be in the moment. You try and prepare for next year with the team you're already with, and if it happens kind of thing. You know, I tried to stay out of it as much as possible, I guess.
So while nothing materialized with those Francisco Lindor trade talks, you wonder, was there any damage done between Corey Seager and the Dodger organization? He might think to himself, hey, if they're talking about Francisco Lindor, how committed are they to me long term? But he understands baseball is a business, but he said it himself that he was surprised by those trade rumors. Now, I think if you're Corey Seager, to me, that's all water under the bridge, especially after you win the World Series and the World Series MVP. But if I'm Andrew Freeman, I'm approaching Scott Boras and Corey Seager, and I'm saying, what you did in 2020 was outstanding. But the reality is we only played 35% of a normal regular season, and your best year was back in 2016 when you had 26 home runs and finished third in the MVP voting. I'm going to offer you 8 years, $235 million. That's a strong AAV between $28.75 and $30 million, right in that sweet spot. And we're going to throw in some options. You throw in some options, throw in some incentives. And if you're Corey Seager, you look back and say, hey, I do have the injury history. I had a bad back in 2017. I had the Tommy John in 2018, the hip surgery. And you go into next year with a secured contract because you don't want Corey Seager entering next season where it's going to be a distraction the entire year. You're trying to repeat as World Series champions, and you have Corey Seager without an extension going into that season. You don't want that if you're the Dodgers. And if you're Corey Seager, you might be pressing all season to try to get those numbers and try to replicate what you did in 2020. So to me, I think Corey Seager and the Dodgers need to find a sweet spot this offseason, sign that extension. We'll put a dollar sign for the Seager for Corey Seager. Give him that bag. He's deserving of it. I want to see him as a lifelong Dodger. I don't want to see an Adrian Beltre situation with Corey Seager, but let me know down below in the comments. Should the Dodgers offer Corey Seager a big extension? What kind of contract would you give Corey Seager? Let me know down below in the comments. And for all the latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com.